Welcome, everyone. Oops, let me just.
Okay.
I want to welcome everyone to our April meeting of Bronx Community Board 8. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Laura Spalter. I'm chair of the board. Welcome, everybody. As we always do, we will start with our gallery session. Welcome, Dr. Christina Carlson. You have the floor.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. Perhaps unsurprisingly, I would like to address the issue of Tishman Speye's proposal to construct a 340-unit apartment building at 160 Van Cortlandt Park South, the former Visitation Church site. At the March land use meeting, it became abundantly clear that residents, community board members, and elected officials alike agreed that Tishman Speye's current proposal is wrong for this community. It's too dense. It does not adequately address concerns about traffic and parking. It's environmentally damaging, and its ratio of studio and one-bedroom apartments to 2- and 3-bedroom units is way out of proportion with the community's need for family-sized dwellings. At the April land use meeting, these concerns were validated when we learned that Tishman Speyer made a deal to acquire development rights from the School Construction Authority. This arrangement allows Tishman to add approximately 70,000 square feet of density to their development site. This is being done at the expense of the health, safety, and welfare of the community. It's puzzling why the SCA would give up the development rights for seemingly nothing, when the SCA's current design lacks an auditorium and adequate ground level outdoor space, as members of this board have noted in the past. It appears that Tishman Speyer has negotiated an agreement with SCA that takes away much needed space from New York City school children to maximize their footprint and ultimately their profit. This agreement belies Tishman's claim of commitment to the community. We all know that there is a dire need for affordable housing in New York. But affordable housing doesn't need to be bad housing. It should be good quality housing that meets neighborhood needs and does not negatively impact the surrounding community. And so we call upon Tishman Speyer to modify its design so that it is appropriate to the Kingsbridge neighborhood in size and function. If Tishman refuses to do so, then we ask the members of this board to stand up for our community and tell our elected officials that Tishman should not benefit from public housing, from public funding. If we are asking this community board to adopt a resolution that Tishman Speyer should receive no public funds for their project at 160 Van Cortlandt Park South until and unless they change their proposal, reducing the density by the approximately 70,000 square feet of development rights they've acquired from SCA and our school children, by changing the ratio of units in favor of more 2- and 3-bedroom apartments, and addressing community concerns about traffic, parking, and environmental impact. Please adopt this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Lori Perkins from the publisher Riverdale Avenue Books.
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. We're the only publisher in the Bronx. We're a 10-year-old publishing company. We're award-winning. We've won a number of independent publisher awards in categories of LGBT, both fiction and nonfiction, pop culture, and feminist theory. And so many people don't know that we are based here. We're in the same building as
I'm sorry, hold on one second, Lori. Somebody needs to mute. We're good?
We're good.
Okay, continue, Lori, sorry.
We're in the same building as the Riverdale Press, 5676 Riverdale Avenue. During the pandemic, we launched a new imprint of binge watcher guides. I don't know if you can see this. The first one was Doctor Who. We did one on Handmaid's Tale. We did one, I don't know what's going on.
I can see.
On which was it? The TV show Riverdale and Black Mirror. We also have one on the Twilight Zone and the films of Harry Potter. We are always looking for local writers.
Hey.
We have 15 imprints. We did a book with a daily news writer on bad behavior by the Yankees. We published science fiction, fantasy, horror, mysteries, romance, memoir, sports. And as I said, I just really want the neighborhood to know that we have an award-winning publishing company right here. So, and of course, I'm looking for local writers. We have an internship program with Manhattan College. We've had it for 10 years. I was a journalism professor at NYU for 20 years. So it's an accredited program, but we also would love to have other people who want to learn about publishing come and work with us. We also publish a daily online magazine called Romance Daily News, and it's geared towards romance readers, but it's really for everyone. And if anyone would like to write for us, we would love to have people write for us as well. So as I said, I'm here because I wanted the neighborhood to know that it has an award-winning publishing company in its midst. And hopefully I will be at the Bronx Book Fair this year in June. This weekend, we're going to be at the Rainbow Book Fair downtown.
Please finish up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I just wanted to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. You're also famously next door to the community board office.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next up is Jane Essel from Lehman College. Jane?
Hi, everyone. As she said, I'm Jane. I work with Lehman College as a student, and also I intern at Rain Older Adult Center. We do have a lot of services that can benefit our older adults in our community. The services that we provide are home care. We do assistance for Alzheimer's patients. We have case management assistance. We have home delivered meals. So if there's an older adult that can have access to food or can go out to get food, our home delivery meals really benefits them. We help with entitlements, low income housing. We also have friendly visiting. So if we have volunteers available that go from house to house to visit clients and have a conversation with them, especially clients that don't have family members or people that they could talk to. We also have case assistance. We have also transportation that helps with appointments, shopping. We also have plans that we help our older adults go for shopping. We organize that for them. We also have a senior center. We do education. We do parties every month for the clients. We also have holiday celebrations that the older adults really enjoy. We have games available that they also play. If some of them are not interested in the lectures, but they're also interested in the games. So we have a variety of services that could benefit our community. You just have to be 60 years and older to qualify for the services that we provide. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining, Jane. Next we
Laura,
have.
Laura,
Yes.
I'm sorry, before you go on, it's Bob. I just wanted to mention one of the services that Lehman provides is something called the Encore program, which allows adults 60 and over to enroll in courses for what I believe is a rather nominal fee, so long as there are spaces in those courses.
Oh,
And I happen to know from a member of my household that that's quite a good program. And if anybody is interested in looking into it, I would encourage them to do so.
thank you, Bob. I see Eli Skozilas. Eli?
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for inviting me to join your board meeting. My name is Eli Skozilas. I'm the housing administrator for the New Jewish Home. We are an older adult health system. I oversee a portfolio of senior housing in the Bronx. We're located right across from the Bronx VA Hospital. We have Katay Senior Apartments, which is apartments for older adults. We provide services. We have meals, programs, activities. We have primarily studios. We have some one bedrooms, but we really wanted to get the word out to the community that we do have availability. I know a lot of individuals older adults are looking for housing and looking for a community to age in place gracefully. And we have that right over here in the Bronx. We're really centrally located to all public transportation. I want to share, you can find more information on our website at jewishhome.org. You can also call our marketing office at 718-410-1614. And if you know of somebody, a family member or neighbor or somebody who can really benefit from our services, feel free to give us a call, share our information. We're happy to connect with them. We're a really great resource for the community. And, you know, the apartments are really nicely set up. You know, they're spacious, there's lots of room and storage, and our programs and activities are really, really a lot of fun. And we do lots of trips, and we go to the Bronx Botanical Gardens and the Yankee game, and lots of local things that the tenants enjoy. And we're here to serve the community. And like I said, you know, if you know of somebody, a neighbor or a friend or family member that's looking to move to a community, we're available, and we have availability, and we're happy to connect with anyone who has any questions. So thank you for allowing me to join and share information about our community. Some of you may be familiar with us. Those of you who want to learn more about us, you know, feel free to check us out on the jewishhome.org. We're also on Instagram, Catay Senior Apartments. There's lots of different ways you can find us. Feel free to give us a call and learn more about us. So thank you very much.
Thank you for joining. Thank you, Eli. Our final speaker,
Laura,
Handel Abdelrahman.
Laura, my hand's been up for a bit. Just a quick question. Eli, is yours that large brick building on Kingsbridge Road at about University, I think?
No, we're actually, sorry, we're located on Webb Avenue, right off of Kingsbridge Road. So Webb Avenue is across the street from the Bronx VA Hospital.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, sorry, David. Okay, Handel Abdelrahman, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everybody.
Welcome.
I just want to say hello, and I just want to repeat what I was saying before about the smoke shops. As you can see, what happened to the police officer who was doing her job, was attacked. This is going to continue happening to our lovely neighborhood. If you think that this is not going to continue happening, you're wrong. It's increasing. If you're starting to hear the more sirens, it's happening. It's already here. Also, by the Buddhist church up by Bailey, around Bailey, there's a site that you don't want to see of carriages, garbage that has just been gathering over for the last 2 weeks. We need to keep our neighborhood clean and safe. Also, right by Chase Bank, if you get off the train or get off the bus or you want to go home and have a relaxation, you don't want to be bombarded by people that are just standing there trying to sell you a one left sneaker and one left shoe. We need to remove some of these people that are just selling things that are blocking our streets and creating human traffic. Our neighborhood, our lovely neighborhood of Kingsbridge and Riverdale, Marble Hill, and everywhere else around this area is being bombarded, and we need to protect ourselves, and we need to do something about it before someone gets hurt or a child gets hurt. I've been saying this before. Please, we need to step up our time and our efforts.
Thank you, Handel. You did email a list, and we are going to work on that. And thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That concludes our gallery session tonight.
Laura, the council members here?
Okay, Councilmember Dinowitz?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we'll get to that after a few of these reports. Thank you. Next, report from the Bronx Borough President's Office. Do we have Alexis Ruiz, our new liaison? Alexis,
Not here. I'll text her and see if she's coming on.
okay. So we'll move on to report from the 50th precinct. I saw Officer Sala and Lieutenant Haney on the call. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Would you like to start your report?
Hi, everyone. How are you? Captain Soror sends a regret she's unable to make it right now. I'm Lieutenant Timothy Haney. I'm the Special Operations Lieutenant for the 50th Precinct. I just want to give our brief report here for the 50th so far. Right now, this week, crime has actually spiked. We were on a pretty good downward trend, but right now, crime has spiked in this week, which has caused us to spike also for the month. Happily, though, the year we're pretty much even. Crime hasn't increased that much for the year so far. The biggest drivers of our crime right now happen to be robberies and grand larcenies. We're starting to tend the tide in cars being stolen, and grand larceny autos and stuff like that. So our public safety teams, our NCO teams are being deployed during our high hours. We're actually going to wind up redeploying some of the hours, some of our officers at different hours and different days of the week, particularly focusing on the weekends to try and address these issues that we're seeing crime spike. I know someone mentioned previously about the officer getting hurt in front of the smoke shop. That was the sheriff in response to the numerous complaints across the entire city regarding these illegal smoke shops and stuff like that. That was one of the avenues that we're trying to address to combat the illegal smoke shops in the city selling marijuana and other cannabis products like that. As I've mentioned previously, we're not able to really enforce them on the issue of the marijuana itself due to this, the laws being changed, as well as New York State's created their own Office of Cannabis Enforcement to deal with that specifically. So what we're doing is we're going, trying to explore avenues of unlicensed general vendor and doing with the sheriff's offices, they're able to enforce that issue of not having proper business licenses, not collecting sales tax, and so on and so forth. So the sheriff's office was inspecting that business when the officer was hit in the head with a bottle. It was not related to the smoke shop inspection, actually. This was just, unfortunately, a pretty random attack. It was not directly related to anything that we were doing related to the smoke shops. The person was apprehended. The officer is okay. She's doing fine. And again, like I said, the biggest drivers that we're having right now is the robberies, the grand larcenies. We've made several arrests in that. Again, we have a few open robbery patterns. One in particular that we're hunting for right now is a gentleman on a red moped. We're looking for that, and specifically, I have my public safety teams, our NCO officers, the whole precinct essentially is looking for this one individual, trying to apprehend him, and he's responsible for a good number of the crimes that we have going on right now. And related to the grand larceny autos, which has previously been our biggest driver of crime, what we're doing with that is, again, using specialized personnel and precinct efforts. Since February 15th, we made over 30 arrests directly related to auto crime in the 50th precinct. So I think that's where we're seeing the dramatic, measurable effect of reducing the crime related to auto related. That's all I have. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you.
I have one, Lieutenant.
Chris
Haynes, if you don't
Calhoun's
mind.
hand is up. Chris?
Hi, I just wanted to say to you, officer, something I've noticed. The northbound service road of Henry Hudson Parkway has been totally cleared of the campers, the SUVs, whatever you want to call it there. There was a makeshift.
Correct. Yeah, that's something we were working on as well.
And I noticed that first and foremost, especially going up there this morning. And I want to applaud the 5-0 for that. I got to tell you, and I also know somebody on this call has been badgering the 5-0 about makeshift donut truck or trailer and stuff down on Johnson Avenue and 235th Street. And I understand that's gone too. So I just wanted to give accolades to the 5-0 for that. That's it.
Yes, thank you. Like I should have mentioned that, it jogged my memory. We've done several operations relating to the illegal parking. In particular, I've worked with myself and Captain Soror. We've worked with our traffic enforcement district to coordinate heavy-duty tow operations to get rid of some of these larger vehicles that are clogging up the streets, for lack of a better phrase. So we've had decent success with that. We're going to try and keep pushing forward. The only, I don't want to say it's an obstacle, but the only, I guess, thing slowing us down, so to speak, is our tow pounds are filling up in space. Obviously, it takes many more parking spots and spaces available to tow a semi-truck or some of those bigger trucks. the NYPD, it's an issue as a whole with the entire department. We've been working on trying to find other tow pound space and so on and so forth. But again, as space opens up, I have a decent relationship with the parking enforcement unit. They give me a heads up when space is open and we start taking cars again and so on and so forth. Thank you.
I do appreciate that effort. And I know you've been working around the Jerome Park Reservoir area, which has been hit very hard with this, affecting parking, and we've been in touch with the precinct on that. And keep up the good work. Thank you. Then there's Bob Bender and then David. Bob?
Thank you, Laura. Lieutenant, there was a news story several days ago about a police-involved shooting on the tracks of the 1 train near 231st Street. Could you tell us
Yes.
what that was about?
Came over as a 911 call of a man frightening people with a firearm on the subway platform at 238th Street. Our officers responded to the location, identified the individual based on eyewitness reports and point out. We tried to take the defendant into custody. He unfortunately pointed a firearm, or we believe to be a firearm, at one of our officers. Fearing for their lives, they fired 1 time at the individual, striking him in the hand. And upon further investigation, he was subsequently arrested. It was actually an imitation pistol. It was a BB gun, but it was made to look real. So that's what the issue was with that.
And so none of the officers were hurt.
No, everyone's fine. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Lieutenant.
David?
Yes, thank you. Lieutenant, you mentioned grand larceny auto, and we all know that there have been a spate of catalytic converter thefts and stealing of wheels. I was wondering where that fit in, and in terms of your statistics, whether you've had success in reducing them or related to just GTA.
No, it was related to anything, as we've been focusing on anything touching a car is what we've been focusing on. So wheels, tires, sensors, the whole car itself, obviously we've been deploying. I'm just kind of lumping everything into GLA when I speak, unfortunately, like just how my brain works. Anything car is what we've been we have, even though right now we're still spiking in grand larcenies, the amount that we're up essentially is dramatically less than what it has been in the past. And like I said, those up since February 15th, those 30 arrests or over 30 are directly related to auto-related crimes. So between GLAs, people stealing rims, tires, sensors, we've made several arrests for people actively stealing the car in progress, which is very hard to do. So we're having really good success with that, and I hope to see instead of us actually still being up in crime, to actually start decreasing fairly soon.
So has it shown any decrease in incidents with
No,
all
like
your
I
arrests?
said, like comparing this year's numbers to last year's, we're still up, but in terms of like the trend, I guess, is really starting to level off. We're just fighting some pretty low numbers from last year this time for whatever reason. So I do think that we're having substantial success. Like I said, for the year, we were up initially at the beginning of the year for grand larceny autos in excess of 20 or 30%. Now we're only down to 10% because we're at each week as it goes by, we're reducing the number of incidents as it actually occurs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This is all we have time for tonight for this segment, and please send your questions or comments into the board office. We will forward them to the 50th precinct. Thank you. Next, we have Chair's report. I'm going to be very brief because we have 2 elections tonight coming up. So please see the executive minutes for my full report. We're going to move on to the treasurer's report. Scott Proppinger.
Sure. Pablo, can we get the updated reports for April on the screen, please?
Sure, 1 second.
Thank you.
Okay, give me 1 second, I'm pulling them up. Okay. Here you go.
Okay, all right, that's great. So on the screen is the updated treasurer's report for April 23. Table 1 reflects personal services with an update of salaries paid. Remaining balance from now to June is $94,472, so things are progressing normally there. Table 1 also reflects other than personal services, OTPS, balance remaining of $23,291. That's broken down in some further detail in Table 1.1. Over the last month, we purchased some office supplies and we paid a fee to the, I think it was the Norwood News for publishing the DM job vacancy. As of today, our general cushion balance, if you want to scooch up a little tiny bit, Pablo, it's holding code 499, which that balance remains around $17,000. So questions came up during exec concerning the spending down on those funds before the end of the fiscal year. So I'll just report next month, there will be a proposed budget modification to disperse those funds from holding code 99 into the various other spending categories so we can spend that money. And specific details concerning the modification and what we propose to spend the money on will be presented next month. So keep an eye out for that. So as you can see in table 1.2, which is up a little bit, there's no budget modification for this month, but there will be one for next month. 1.3 reflects requested and encumbered funds, 0 requested, and we have 2880 in encumbered funds, which means the items have been purchased and input into the system but are awaiting payment. That mostly reflects the OTPS office supply purchases that were recently made. So that should be cleared up by next month. Finally is table 1.4, rent and energy detail. Not something we have control over, but we like to monitor it here for reference. And that's the report for the month.
Thank you so much, Scott. Thank you. Moving on. The report from the New York City Department of City Planning. I understand we have 2 guests. Is Director Paul Phillips on or Camilla Thomas?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, great. Would you like
How
to
are you?
introduce yourself? Welcome, welcome.
Sure, thank you. So just wanted to take an opportunity to introduce myself. I am the new borough director. Well, I guess still new. I started in mid-January. Some of you may know me. I was previously the district manager of Community Board 4 in the Bronx. So the Yankee Stadium area for almost 7 years. Before that, I was at the department primarily in the Bronx office. I was the liaison to community districts 4 and 1 in the South Bronx. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to introduce myself to the board. I'm trying to make the rounds. I think I'm almost halfway through all the boards here in the Bronx. I've also been meeting with all the council members. I've met with the borough president's office and just want to introduce myself. I know that you guys know Camila well, and we want to continue to be a resource for your board and for all the boards, here in the borough of the Bronx. So that's really it. I just wanted to take an opportunity. I know you guys are busy. I also just want to say, having been a former district manager, I appreciate the work that you guys do. I know that you guys work very hard and you guys are not salaried other than your staff. And so I have a great amount of appreciation and respect for the work that boards do, particularly my Bronx board. So that's it. And then if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take any, but don't want to take up too much of your time.
Well, there's so much coming out of city planning, expected text changes and zoning issues. And I think we'll be very busy, all of us, with your office.
Yes, we will. So yeah, and so just so you know, I won't take a lot of time. So we do have the carbon neutrality text amendment will be referred out next week on Earth Day. And the other 2 will be forthcoming, but I do encourage folks. We've had some information sessions on carbon neutrality. There will be additional information sessions for folks on the text change for housing and for economic opportunity. So I encourage folks to attend those. Your feedback and questions are really helpful in crafting those proposals. So I encourage folks to attend those, and then also feel free to email the office with questions or things you might like to see addressed in those text changes. So we encourage that feedback.
Well, thank you, Director, and thank you, Camilla, for being always available. We have Councilman Eric Dinowitz.
Hey, Laura. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well this evening.
Yes.
I just want to start off first by thanking the 50th precinct. We've gotten a lot of complaints about the trucks as well. And in fact, the assembly member and I reached out to the 50th precinct. They've been responsive to us and to you in terms of their capability of towing, doing what they can. We also requested with the Department of Transportation, specifically for the area on Henritz and Parkway East, the area that the gentleman before spoke about. to make that an alternate side of the street parking area, to have alternate side there. So, more opportunities requiring the cars to move. Additionally, I'm a sponsor of a few pieces of legislation actually trying to help address the trucks, which is a problem citywide. One piece of legislation would require the city to actually find a space for the trucks to park. The other piece of legislation would raise the ticket prices, raise the costs of getting the tickets for the trucks who are illegally parking. So both providing the opportunity for trucks to park, and the consequence for not parking illegally. Just to remind everyone, our office is still undergoing renovation. So we have staff at the office of Assemblyman Jeff Dinowitz at 3107 Kingsbridge Avenue. And we also have office hours at the different libraries. Tomorrow we'll be at the Riverdale Library from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then for the hours, just check out social media. We post those library office hours every so often, but we get throughout the district. Many of you know that there is a charter school being built on 232nd and Kingsbridge Avenue. It's an expansion of the International Charter School. We held a rally there on Saturday. The Assembly member, Senator Jackson, and I, along with residents from the surrounding buildings, opposing this. And we went into the parking lot and we saw it was crumbling. It was sinking and cracking. We saw on the other side of this construction, the ground next to their home was being cracked. People reported to us that the walls in their building were cracked. And the charter school has been completely unresponsive and unwilling to meet with the community, both about the construction concerns and about concerns regarding how the school's going to be run and how they're going to manage basic things like traffic. And so, we are still pushing on this. It is budget season. And so we are working on our discretionary budget. Thank you to those of you who filled out our budget form, where we're soliciting feedback from the community about your priorities. And we're also dealing with the city budget. The mayor proposed a budget that significantly cuts, a lot of city services. So in the council, we had a preliminary budget response. I'm having my executive budget committee hearing for the higher education committee, which is CUNY, next month. I'm holding a roundtable tomorrow morning, but we are pushing back strongly against the cuts to our city agencies, and me especially, to our education system and to CUNY. I also introduced legislation at the last stated meeting, specifically for our Mitchell-Lama buildings, many of which are seeing steep increases to their rent and maintenance. This bill would streamline the process for older adults to sign up for SCREE, for the rent freeze. And of course, casework, my office is available. We've been dealing with everything, as I mentioned, from the trucks. Con Edison was going to shut off power right before Passover. So some of the constituents reached out and we were able to get them to postpone that work that they were going to do to shut off power right before a Jewish holiday. We know that congestion on 231st Street and double parking is an ongoing issue. And so we've asked for more enforcement from the 50th precinct, and we've also reached out to the MTA. They're sending a dispatcher to observe the area over the next couple of days and reach back to us, and get to us with their next steps. That's all I have for this report. Make it a quick report. But again, as always, my office is open. I'm available to chat with constituents and over email, of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I see one hand, Lee.
This is a question for the council member. Good evening, Eric.
Hi, Lee.
Hi. I got an email from Jenna about your forum on local law 97. Is it still going to happen, and do you have a final date?
We don't have a date. We are
Yeah.
working. We have confirmed
Sorry,
that the Department of Buildings.
So Jenna wants to tell you
Oh.
she doesn't have a date.
We do have a date. I was joking.
It's Tuesday, May 16th at 6 p.m. and the webinar link is to come. We're sending it out to all of our community boards and civic groups. We'll promote it so everyone will get the link.
Okay, then I can actually mention it at our next housing committee meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
You sure can. Thank you. Thanks, Jenna. Jenna, for those who don't know, is my chief of staff. Has been working very hard on coordinating this webinar to make sure that we and our buildings are prepared for local law 97.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Chuck, your hand is up. Chuck?
I'm sorry, I had it muted. Eric, as you know full well, the people at the Amalgamated are really in quite a bit of a pickle in terms of the increases caused by the attempt to move everybody over to electricity, which of course is also made primarily through fossil fuels. But in any event, if there is insistence on the part of the council to adhere to that timetable, can we not do two things? One, to provide as an offsetting relief point for the people who live in the Amalgamated, tax relief in terms of their real estate taxes on the premises. It's really grossly unfair. Mitchell Lamas and established buildings like the Amalgamated are the backbones of any community. And if you drive out the hardworking people who live there, that's not in the public interest.
Chuck, I agree with you. I think it's the oldest limited equity co-op I know in the United States, and this is something that's very important. And I've said this before publicly, but those are the same conversations that I'm having in the council. Is that the issue, by the way, isn't just city council related. A lot of it has to do with the state. Without getting too much into it, yes, I think there should be some relief for the folks at the Amalgamated. I think some of that from the city. Regarding the gas, it does seem to be that there is miscommunication between agencies about what's actually required. So that's unsurprising. So we're still having those meetings. We are meeting with the borough president about this very issue tomorrow. But yes, this is something that I'm very interested in discussing, in our budget and making sure that the residents of the Amalgamated have relief. I mean, it really is middle income. We talk a lot about affordable housing in this city, but if we're not doing what we need to do to preserve affordable housing, then we're not really doing right by housing and by the people of New York City.
Let me just simply add, if you would give some thought to providing for offsetting real estate tax relief for a period of a few years, that could provide an interim benefit that sort of, if not entirely offset, could really ameliorate the problem.
That's my fault. I didn't make it clear. That is actually very specifically one of the recommendations and one of the requests that I made. But yes, I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, I'm going
Thank
to
you.
ask, absent a secretary, I'm going to call on Pablo to please do the roll call. Pablo?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm here. Okay, let me get the list. All right. In order.
And we
So
and we
Sylvia
have a
Alexander?
quorum.
Yes. Sylvia Alexander,
Here.
Constance Barnes Watson. Okay, Bob Bender,
Here?
Kelly Beeford,
Present.
Christopher Calhoun.
Hey, Pablo.
Hey, Chris. Lee Chung,
Here.
Sebastian Chibalapoli,
Present.
Ingrid De Leon, Margaret Della,
Present.
Margaret Donato,
Present.
Moses Esema,
Present.
Robert Fanuzzi,
Here.
Nicholas Fazio,
Present.
Stephen Fruit,
Present.
David Gilman,
Present.
Rosemary Ginty,
Here.
Julia Gomez,
Here.
Edward Green, Rashida Hillard, Here. Robert Jaglowski,
Here.
Robert Kaplan, Scott Croppinger,
Present.
Rita Proctor.
Rita, I saw you before.
I see you, Rita. You have to unmute, but I see you. Okay. Charles G. Merdler,
Yeah.
okay. Theodore Morris, Omar Murray,
Here.
Daniel Paternach,
Here.
okay. Julie Reyes,
Present.
Georgia Santiago,
Present.
Ramdap Singh.
Present.
I don't think this person is here. Laura Spolter.
Present.
Okay. Leona Tetton.
Present.
Okay. Camelia Tepelis.
Present.
Deborah Travis. Deborah Travis. Okay. Sergio Villaverde. Martin Wolpoff.
Here.
Okay, I'll go to those that haven't responded once more. Huntons, Barnes Watson. Ingrid De Leon. Edward Green. Robert Kaplan. Ted Morris. Deborah Travis. Sergio Villaverde.
Sergio's here.
Sergio. Okay. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll move on to election of the board secretary. First, I do want to thank Rob Jaklowski. He served long and well. And well, I was very happy he got a new program. We do miss him, and I'm grateful for his service and glad that he's able to remain on the board. So we do have election for board secretary. Are there any nominations from the floor? Camelia.
Hello, good evening. It is my pleasure to nominate for the position of Secretary of CB8, Margaret Della. You all know her very well. This past year, she was the chair of the Special Committee on Racial Equity. Her job really made a huge difference in the output of our work. Her understanding of the district is extremely comprehensive. She's a very nuanced person and very precise in the way she approaches very complex issues. So with having said all this, I would like to nominate Margaret. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret, do you accept?
I do. Thank you very much, Camelia.
Okay. Are there any other hands, any other nominations? Anyone from the floor? Okay, seeing none, let's have a vote. Is there anyone opposed to Margaret Della?
Motion to close nominations?
Oh, yes, thank you, thank you. Motion to close nominations. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. I was getting ahead of myself there. Is anyone opposed? Please raise your hand to the nomination. Anyone abstaining? Okay, so it is unanimous. Your secretary, and congratulations, Margaret, and I look forward to working with you. And if you want to say a few words, go right ahead, Margaret.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Camelia. As Camelia mentioned, for the last nearly 2 years, I've been the chair of the Special Committee on Racial Equity. I'll be concluding my 4th year on the board, I guess later this spring. And for the last 7 years, I've worked for Kingsbridge Heights Community Center. I recently concluded my tenure there. And I'm working with other nonprofit organizations in the Bronx, and certainly wanted to continue to invest in my community. I live in the district and have lived here for nearly 9 years. So I'm really proud. My dogs live here. Perfect timing. So anyway, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you for stepping up. That's great. Okay, moving on to election of the nominating committee. I do have a statement to read first. Let's see. The nominating committee has the responsibility of interviewing all the current committee chairs and the officers, and anyone on the board who is interested in applying for one of those leadership positions. Having said that, when it comes to officers, a member of the nominating committee may not be nominated by the committee for a position of officer. Committee chairs. A member of the nominating committee under consideration for a committee chair shall recuse him, herself from discussion and vote for that position. There are several other rules and regulations. In the event of a tie vote in the nominating committee, both candidates shall be presented to the board. The nominating committee must complete its activities and present its slate at least 2 calendar weeks before the June meeting at which the election will take place. And a further statement: it is impractical and inadvisable to establish specific qualifications, criteria, or quotas which would either limit board members in choosing a nominating committee or limit the nominating committee in choosing a slate of officers and committee chairs. Nevertheless, board members who are putting together a proposed slate should make their choice, bearing in mind that it is both good policy as well as conducive to the smooth functioning of the board to strive for a nominating committee and a slate of proposed officers and committee chairs who represent diverse geographic areas within the board, diverse communities, diverse ethnic and racial groups, and diverse professional and work backgrounds. The choices made should also consider the experience of any nominee as a board member and the extent of the interest shown by any such nominee in participating in board matters. These factors, while not meant to impel any particular individual choice, should always serve as general guidance. The nominating committee must be between 3 and 5 members. So at this juncture, I will ask if there are any nominations from the floor for the nominating committee.
Madam Chair, if I can.
I see Nick Fazio.
I nominate Moses Sema.
Moses, do you accept?
I do. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Moses. Sema. I see Bob Bender.
I nominate Omar Murray.
Omar, do you accept?
Yes.
Omar Murray. Margaret Donato.
Laura, I
see.
nominate Sylvia Alexander.
Okay. Sylvia, do you accept? Sylvia? Sylvia?
She's on mute.
Sylvia, unmute yourself. Sylvia?
Or just give a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
I'll come back to that because I can't put her down unless.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Okay, yes, you were
Yes.
nominated. Do you accept?
Yes,
Okay.
I do accept.
Okay, Sylvia Alexander. I see Dan Paternak.
Hi, Madam Chair. I would actually like to nominate two individuals, and I hope they each accept. They're both chairs. To my knowledge, neither has served on this committee, and I think both would be excellent. I'd like to nominate both Kelly Buford and Julia Gomez, and I hope each of them do accept the nomination.
Kelly Buford, do you accept? Kelly?
Yes, I accept.
Okay. Kelly Buford. And I'm sorry, the second name?
Julia Gomez.
Julia
Chair of the
Gomez.
committee.
Julia, do you accept?
I accept.
Okay.
Thank you.
Omar Murray.
I'd like to nominate Steve Fruit.
Steve, do you accept? Steve. Steve.
Yes, I was muted, sorry.
Okay, do you accept?
Yes.
Okay, Steve Fruit. I see, Omar, your hands. Omar, I called on you already, right? Yes, yeah, okay. Rosemary Ginty.
I'll nominate somebody from our Marble Hill community, Chris Calhoun.
Chris, do you accept?
On behalf of the board and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, yes.
Okay, so, how many names do we have?
We have 7 names.
Okay, we have 7 names. Let's put them up.
Madam Chair, I move to close nominations.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay. Anyone opposed to closing nominations? Anybody abstaining? Okay, so we close nominations. I have to write this down on,
Madam Chair?
see everybody's name who has accepted up. Just the names of the candidates.
Okay, just a moment.
Yeah, while you're doing that, let me explain.
One second, please.
Yeah.
Luke, did you make note that Robert Kaplan and Deborah Travis have entered the room?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, does everybody see the names? Okay, this is what we have to do. And this will take time, but there's no easy way to do this. We have to do a roll call. And each board member will call out up to 5 names. Doesn't have to be 5, but cannot be more than 5, because the nominating committee cannot be more than 5. And we have to do this slowly enough so that Luke, who is doing a tally, is able to accomplish that goal. Are there any questions how we'll do this? Again, this is difficult because you have all terrific people. Terrific.
Laura, can you begin?
Okay, Pablo, you can begin. If people want to think about it, you know, write down on their sheet their own, what they're selecting, but please be ready when we call you, because this will be tedious. Sorry about that. Okay, so go ahead, Luke.
Luke, all right, I'll begin reading the names and you'll go. All right, Sylvia Alexander.
Moses, myself, Kelly, Chris, and Steve Fruit.
Thank you, Sylvia. Bob Bender.
Moses, Omar, Julia, and Steve Fruit.
Thank you. Kelly Buford.
Moses, Sylvia, Kelly, Steve, and Chris.
Thank you. Christopher Calhoun,
Sylvia, Kelly Buford, Steve Fruit, myself, and wait a minute, Omar, I'm sorry.
okay, thank you. Lee Chung,
Omar, Kelly, Julia, Steve, and Chris.
you got that, Luke?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sebastian,
Omar, Sylvia, Moses, Kelly, Steve, and Chris.
Okay.
you good? Okay,
Yeah, one request, if people can go in the order of the list. Thanks.
very good.
Could
Madam
you
Secretary,
narrow those columns so we can see it all at once?
Say again?
Could you narrow the name columns?
Yeah, just give me one moment.
Thank you.
um,
That we can see them all at once.
Sure. Let me just try to reconfigure my screen for a second.
If you just click and drag columns C through I and make them narrower, that will do the job.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just dealing with the Zoom interface. So
I see.
Just one moment.
Isn't everybody seeing all 7 names on the left
No.
side of the grid?
No.
Okay.
Everybody's seeing it on the big screen, right? They're very big.
I see it on the left.
Yeah,
We don't
Luke, you
see
can
the
reduce the
columns.
size of the notepad window.
But everybody sees the 7 names on the left side.
Yes.
Big.
Yes.
That's
Laura,
really,
but
that's
he
really,
needs-
we need to keep moving.
I know, just 1 minute, please. Thank you.
That's fine. Don't worry. You're fine.
No, you're doing
Okay.
good.
okay. Margaret Della,
Moses, Omar, Kelly, Julia, Chris.
Margaret Donato, Margaret Donato,
Margaret, unmute yourself. Well, no, you're on the phone, but still might be muted.
I'm okay. Sylvia, Alexandra, Omar, Moses, Chris, and Kelly.
thank you, Margaret. Moses Asema,
Sure thing. Myself, Omar, Sylvia, Julia, Steve.
thank you, Moses. Robert Fanuzzi,
Moses, Omar, Kelly, Julia, Steve Fruit.
thank you, Robert. Nicholas Fazio,
Moses, Omar, Sylvia, Julia, Steve.
you good, Luke?
Yeah, if you would give me 1 moment, I should freeze the top row.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you good?
Doing
Okay,
great. You're doing great.
Thanks.
all right. Okay, Stephen Fruit,
Moses, Omar, Sylvia, myself, and Chris.
thank you, Stephen. David Gelman,
Yes. We've got a wealth of good candidates. I'm looking at distribution. So Moses, Sylvia, Kelly, Steve, and Chris.
okay, thank you, David. Rosemary Ginty,
Julia, Kelly, Sylvia, Chris, and Moses.
thank you, Rosemary. Julia Gomez,
Moses, Kelly, myself, Steve, and Chris.
thank you, Julia. Rashida Hillard,
Moses, Omar, Sylvia, Julia, and Stephen. Or Stephen.
thank you, Rashida.
You're welcome.
Robert Jaklowski,
Moses, Omar, Julia, Stephen, Chris.
thank you, Robert. Robert Kaplan,
Yes, Moses, Omar, Julia, Steve, and Chris.
Thank you, Robert. Scott Croppinger,
Moses, Omar, Kelly, Julia, Stephen.
thank you, Scott. Rita Proctor Lowe, Rita Proctor Lowe. You need to unmute Rita. Okay, we'll come back to her. Is that okay, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Okay. Charles G. Merdler,
Chuck,
I see that Rita is unmuted.
good.
You
Go
got
ahead,
me
Rita.
now? You got
Yes.
me? Okay, I'm sorry. Moses, Omar, Sylvia, Julia, Steve Fruit.
Thank you, Rita.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Charles G. Merdler,
Moses, Omar. Hang on, I have this. Moses, Omar, Sylvia, Steve Fruit, and Chris Calhoun.
okay, thank you, Charles. Omar Murray,
All right, so Moses, myself, Steve, Julia, and Kelly.
thank you, Omar. Dan Paternak,
Thank you. Sylvia, Kelly, Julia, Chris and Moses.
thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Julie Reyes,
Julie? Are you muted, Julie? Julie?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. Okay, Omar, Moses, Julia, Steve.
okay. You're good, Luke?
Yes.
Okay. Georgia Santiago,
Omar, Sylvia, Moses, Steve.
okay. Thank you, Georgia. Ramdat Singh,
Moses, Omar, Julia, Steve, and Chris.
thank you, Ramdat.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Laura Spolter,
Moses, Omar, Julia, Steve. Do I have, how many did this?
that's 4.
4. And wait, Moses, Julia, Omar, and Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Leona Tenton,
Sorry. Moses, Omar, Kelly, Julia, Steve.
You muted.
I finished. Did you guys not catch them all?
Just 2.
Oh, sorry. Moses, Omar, Kelly, Julia, and Steve.
thank you, Leona. Camelia Tepelis,
Sylvia, Kelly, Julia, Steve, Chris.
thank you, Camelia. Deb Travis,
Moses, Omar, Julia, Steve, and Chris.
thank you, Deb. Sergio Villaverde,
Moses, Omar, Kelly, Julia, Chris.
okay. Martin Wolpoff,
And to put the people over on the top, let's see, Moses, Omar, Sylvia, Steve, and Chris.
Madam Chair, that is all board members accounted for.
Okay. And the totals,
Okay.
Yeah, go Luke.
Can you see the totals? We've got 29 votes for Moses Asema, 25 votes for Omar, Sylvia Alexander, 17, Kelly Buford, 17, Julia Gomez, 22, Steve Fruit, 27, Chris Calhoun, 20. So I'm just gonna highlight the big largest sums here. Okay, this appears to me to be the top 5. That is Moses Osema, Omar Murray, Julia Gomez, Steve Fruit, Chris Calhoun.
Congratulations. Everyone here is fantastic, and thank you. Thank you, Pablo and Luke, for doing such a great professional job here. So at the end of this meeting, the group will have their own meeting and take care of some organizational business. Board members are welcome to leave our meeting or stay on for their meeting, however you choose. Again, congratulations, everybody, and job well done. Okay.
Could I just go back one moment, because I didn't see anything for Steve? I might have missed it, but I don't think there was one for Steve. And he did get votes.
Sorry, one of what?
Steve Fruit? Steve Fruit did not have a total
Yeah, he did.
votes that he obtained.
He did.
He did. He was the third highest.
27?
Is that
Okay, I
correct,
missed it
Luke?
then. I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, if you'd
I'm
like, I can
sorry.
share my screen again. Fruit had 27.
Okay, do you want to just say the names of the 5 again, please?
Sure, and I'll just share my screen just for transparency's sake.
Thank you, Sylvia. Say the name of the 5.
Okay, so we got Moses Osema, Omar Murray, Julia Gomez, Steve Fruit, and Chris Calhoun.
And I still don't see Steve.
He's this column right here.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it.
That's right.
Okay. So we're moving on with our agenda. We'll start off with education, libraries, and cultural affairs. Sylvia.
My report is based on my minutes of March meeting. My next meeting is on April 25th, and I encourage anyone who's here from my committee to please attend, because I have 4 SAPO applications that have to be voted on, and also the budget to do a final run through. So please attend my meeting.
Thank you. Next up, environment and sanitation. Camelia.
Oh, hello, good evening. Our last meeting dealt primarily with our budget priorities. Our next meeting is tomorrow. We have 2 invited guests, an external organization called Cal City as a Living Laboratory, and also a very expected guest from MTA in relation to the tracks that would potentially connect what is to be the daylighting of Tibet's Brook project with what the mayor announced a few weeks ago, the new Harlem River Greenway project that is supposed to connect all the way up to Van Cortlandt Park. We will also pioneer new technical improvements to the office, and my thanks to Pablo and Luke for the little trial we had going on today. Please attend if you're interested. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Camelia. Health, hospitals, and social services. Omar.
Hi, good evening, everyone. There was no meeting this month, but we are working on a meeting for next month. The reason why there was no meeting is that we were working to get representatives from homeless services and to come and speak about 61 Broadway. However, they could not make it for this month's meeting. So next month we are working to have a meeting, to have a public meeting, so that they can come in and discuss. Because as most of you may know, that service provider has changed from AAPCI to the organization called West Hub. So we are working to bring them in for next month. They have been given 2 dates, so hopefully they will be able to make one of them. So hopefully to see you guys next month. Thank you.
Right. Well, this month you were bumped for Passover. Yes, and I expect to hear from them very soon. They'll pick a date, we'll advertise. Thank you, Omar. Housing?
Good evening. Our last meeting in March, we dealt with the budget, capital and expense. We more or less finalized it. And there was a discussion on composting and its impact in the community. But the bulk of our meeting was dealing with amalgamated houses and local law 152 and local law 97, to the point where we're continuing the discussion at our next meeting in April.
Thank you. Next up is public safety.
Hands up.
Laura.
What?
Laura,
Oh, what am I doing? Land use, I'm sorry,
no, Laura.
yes.
Just direct this to Lee. Lee, I think it is appropriate for you to see if you can pull together a meeting of your committee to take a good hard look at issues involving the housing authority buildings. The city, to my direct knowledge, is now taking a good hard look at what it is going to do with a number of issues involving the housing authority, ranging from what they call infill, in other words, building more buildings in what is a park-like setting to the extent it exists in various housing projects, to issues of privatization of management, which they call federalization. I think you can expect some significant changes somewhere in the next few months, or proposals for changes on housing authority. So I think it's worth you taking a look at it. I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Well,
It's
that
something
issue
you ought to do.
has been that has been a plan of NYCHA for at least 10 years that I know of.
But apparently they're going to pull the trigger now.
In what sense are they going to be pulling the trigger?
Why don't we talk offline? Meanwhile, I think you ought to take a good hard look at it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Chuck. Land use is up next. Chuck.
I'll be brief. I have sent to each member of the board a copy of the draft resolution that was prepared following a meeting that we had last time, which was the second of the two meetings in the month of April. The purpose of which was hopefully to vote, but we didn't because there were a couple of changes. One of which I do need to take particular note of, and that is the constructive change proposed by Rosemary to say that we need, in terms of focusing upon affordable housing, to focus on the Mitchell-Lama concept and the concepts that led to the amalgamated, and to start thinking about how we can extend those into affordable housing as part of the program. It is my understanding that affordable housing is very much on the front of the agenda. Indeed, I was told today that the borough president's interviewing process of candidates for new terms has now included questioning or comments concerning where people think affordable housing ought to go and what to do. So it's clearly on the minds of many. I'd ask each of you to read it. It will come up for a vote. It will be put to a vote, up or down, at the May 1 meeting, and those who favor it will vote for it. Those who don't favor it will vote against it, and we'll see where this board stands on affordable housing. That's all I have to report. The meeting is on May 1.
Okay, thank you, Chuck.
Oh, one more thing, if I may, I apologize. I understand, is the Bronx Director of City Planning still on the phone?
Is Director Phillips?
Yes,
still
he
on?
is.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So I wonder if you could set aside some time at your convenience for a conversation on SNAD. That situation is not good. Building department has created a whole new process under which, instead of providing violations, it gives people a letter, and certain people, at least those who have a single family home without a violation, to fix it. And then at the end of 60 days, if they haven't complied, who the heck knows what'll happen. The first of those is coming due now. So we'll see what they do at the end of that 60 days and whether they could make a case even if they tried. And whether they, any of the people who have been given these letters have met with city planning. SNAD is a particularly sensitive subject in this board, and anything you can do to help us pull this piece together so as to preserve SNAD would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Sure. So what I can work with Camila. We can see if we can set up some time with yourself and whoever else from the board. Happy to meet with you guys and discuss SNAD and whatever your issues are and figure out how we might be able to help you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Chuck, does Marty have any report on the SNAD?
Oh, Marty. Marty?
Yeah, at this point, we're supposed to meet tomorrow, but I think we're postponing that date. And I reported last time on our previous meeting. As far as I know, they're working towards completion. The inside is being worked on, the skin and the building is being worked on. The building was topped off last month. And so they're moving forward.
Great, thank you. Marty, law, rules, and ethics, you're up.
No report at this time.
Okay, moving on to Parks and Recreation. Deb.
Hey, everybody. Let's see where to start. So first off, I want to just make sure everyone is aware that at the May 24th Parks meeting, it will be a joint meeting with Environment and Sanitation, and we'll be discussing the Putnam Greenway and seeing the most recent design for it. I encourage everyone to come. The meeting will be at 7 o'clock. I know that there was discussion about it maybe being earlier, but it has been scheduled for 7 o'clock. And I hope everyone comes and learns about this exciting project. At our March meeting of the Parks Committee, we discussed the Van Cortlandt Park pedestrian bridge. There was a presentation by the Parks Department on their alternative plan for the pedestrian bridge which would span the Major Deegan near Chandler Field. The presentation is attached to our March minutes. Also, Alderbrook Stream, the Urban Park Service presented on Alderbrook Stream. The current conditions, it's been very deteriorated due to runoff, and their presentation is also attached to our minutes. And then finally, I just wanted to raise the current conditions of the Van Cortlandt Golf Course. At our March meeting, we discussed how kind of bad it's gotten. The golf course itself has, the golf house itself has boarded up windows. The Birding Bridge, which is a pedestrian bridge that's near hole 9, connects 9 and 10. The pedestrian side has collapsed and now interrupts the John Kieran Trail. The East Coast Greenway that crosses the grounds is in poor condition due to runoff. And we all know how badly the fencing is around the Van Cortlandt Golf House, which is really in a state of blight, with parts of it damaged or broken through and just covered in vines and damage from trees. The Van Cortlandt Park Golf Course concession is bound by a concession agreement with the city. And so we've reached out to the concession unit to just get more information about what they were doing to work with the concessionaire and to just encourage them to hold the concession accountable. And I refer you to our March minutes for all of the details on our budget priorities. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, April 26th, next week at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Deb. Public safety, Chris
Laura?
Calhoun. Oh, I'm sorry, David, your hand is up.
Yes, Deb, sorry to hear about the Birding Bridge. Since it seemed pretty complicated last time, the presentation, might we be able to get the Putnam South Greenway design, say a day or so in advance of the meeting? Can you ask them?
If they present again, I absolutely can ask for them to send it in advance. I'm happy to do that. The presentation they made is attached to the minutes, so if you want to review it, and certainly they're open to comments and stuff.
I'm sorry, Deborah, I'm new to this, but I used to go to.
I'm sorry, who's that? It's only board
Madam
members.
Chair, who's a member of the public.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
No. Come to the the committee meetings because they're the public is allowed to participate, but in the full board meetings, it's just the board members. So, no, don't be sorry. Thank you for joining us tonight. Please.
Yeah, and if you have any of the questions of any of the topics I've raised or anything else regarding parks, please just come to our meeting next week.
Yes.
Speak freely there.
Steve, is your hand up? Yeah.
Yeah, just really briefly, Deb, I don't know, this may be too much too soon. It's the first I've heard about the disrepair. Do you happen to know if the concession is up for rebid or reselection or renewal? Because if it's happening quickly, then we might need to try to exert a little pressure. That's just in case.
Yeah, so the concession for the Van Cortlandt Golf House or Van Cortlandt Golf Course is up in 2027. So we have a little bit of time to work with to try to get them into better condition. There are conditions within their contract that do call for them to spend certain amounts of money allocated, especially in this last like 5 years. And so I put together kind of a PowerPoint presentation with pictures of each of the things, where they're located in the park, and then also the language from the contract. So all of that is with the minutes. So you can, for parks. So if you want to really just kind of dig into what they should be doing, including public programming, which I don't believe they're doing at all, totally check it out.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, no further hands. And let's move on to public safety. Chris Calhoun is presenting resolutions on behalf of Ed. We can put them up on the screen.
Good evening, everyone. As Chair Spalter mentioned, I'm filling in for Ed Green. Hopefully I'll pull this off quickly. They're all SLAs, renewal applications for businesses in our district. The first one is for liquor, wine, beer, and cider. And whereas a representative of Jake's Steakhouse, located at 6031 Broadway, appeared before the Public Safety Committee on March 21st, 2023, to renew this establishment's liquor license. Whereas representatives of the NYPD precinct stated they were unaware of any prior notable disturbances or complaints at the location of this establishment. Whereas the Public Safety Committee unanimously approved this application. Therefore, be it resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 approves this application. I'm going to go on to the second one. Kind of favoring this could be voted in as a package, but if somebody wants to do it individually, so be it. Next one up is wine, beer, and cider. Whereas Elizabeth Basalo, representative of Smashburger at 193 West 237th Street, appeared before the Public Safety Committee on March 21st, 2023 to renew this establishment's liquor license. Whereas representatives of the 50th Precinct stated they were unaware of any prior disturbances or complaints at the location of this establishment. Whereas the Public Safety Committee unanimously approved this application. On to the final one. This one's for liquor, wine, beer, and cider. Whereas Anil Ahmed, a representative of Neem Indian Cuisine at 3549 Johnson Avenue, appeared before the Public Safety Committee also on March 21st, 2023 to renew this establishment's liquor license. Whereas representatives of the NYPD's 50th Precinct stated they were unaware of any prior notable disturbances or complaints at the location of this establishment. And once again, whereas the Public Safety Committee unanimously approved this application. It's out there for a vote, my fellow board members.
Thank you, Chris. We're grouping the three together. Is there anyone opposed to approving these renewals? Raise your hand. Anyone abstaining? Okay, all three unanimously approved. And thank you, Chris.
One last thing, our next meeting is Thursday, April 27th at 7 p.m. And now back to you, Laura.
Okay. Next is traffic and transportation. Kelly.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I refer you to our minutes of the March 16 meeting. I also note that during the March 16 meeting, DOT spoke about the expansion of the city bike program within the district, and DOT is expected to present their final locations to the public at the May or June full board meetings. I also note that we discussed the budget priorities, and we will finalize those at the meeting on this coming Thursday, April 20th at 7 p.m. Lastly, I note that we had a renaming up for approval during February, which the committee approved the minutes, recognizing that at the March meeting, and also as the street naming is required to be presented at 2 successive board meetings, the resolutions are before the board again.
Thank you, Kelly. Is there anyone opposed to the request for street naming in honor of Betty and Lloyd Adams of Lloyd's Carrot Cake Bakery? This would be our second vote. Anyone opposed? Okay, anyone abstaining? No, unanimously passed, and from here it goes to the city council, and we're all looking forward to this. Thank you for ushering that through, Kelly.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, youth, go right ahead.
We had our meeting last night. The minutes should be forthcoming. Please review them. Our May meeting, we are trying to have a joint meeting with aging. So should be exciting. Please come join us. Have a great night.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you. We didn't have an aging committee meeting this month. Budget, David.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's that time of year again, so we're getting down to business here. As I've been saying since early in the winter, our fiscal year 2025 budget requests are due from the committees by April 20th, this Thursday. A third of the committees have gotten theirs in already. If any of you chairs are going to have any sort of difficulty getting yours in by the end of the week, please contact me and let me know that. And if I can help in any way in whatever formatting or whatever, please do not hesitate to contact me about it, but I'd like to get them all in this week. I've spoken to 1 or 2 of you who have difficulty with that, but if you're not going to be able to make it by the end of the week, please do contact me. Don't hesitate to ask for help. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Economic development, Nick.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. Our last meeting was March 7th. Please refer to our minutes. Next meeting will take place on May 11th. We will be at Santa Fe Grill, 6025 Broadway. We will select our recommendation for the Betty Campbell Adams Most Valuable Merchant Award, and as always, hear from some of our local businesses. In the meantime, we have a commercial corridor walkthrough this Friday on West Kingsbridge Road. We will be joined by SBS, EDC, DOB Small Business Response Team, and I think BOEDC as well. And I want to thank Luke and Laura for helping us put all that together.
Oh,
this week was Riverdale Restaurant Week. I hope you all went out, supported our local businesses, and we should thank Laura Levine, Michael Gabbert, One Bronx, KRBC, Riverdale Main Street Alliance, and anyone else who had a hand. I hope I didn't forget anyone, but everyone that is supporting this event one way or another. If you want a list of restaurants and a map and an itinerary for all the different activities they have planned, go to dineoutriverdale.com. Thank you, everyone. And Madam Chair, back to you.
Thank you. Special Committee on Hudson River Greenway, Bob.
Yes, thank you. We will be meeting on May 17th
And we'll review the status of the Greenway and what has happened over the past year and what we hope will be happening in the next year, May 17th.
Thank you. Margaret, Special Committee on Racial Equity.
Our next meeting is on May 10th. In the previous meeting that we had a discussion with the mayor's office of gender-based violence, and we heard some pretty significant and concerning data about violence that predominantly is focused on women and women of color primarily. So we discussed current trends in our district as well as adjacent districts. And the conversation led to conversations about the health of women of color and access that women have to health and services within the district. So at our next meeting, we are having a presentation from Bronx Health Link, and they'll be discussing current data in the borough, as well as resources for women, but certainly all residents. The other thing is SCREE is also looking for additional members. So we do have 4 active members, and we're looking for additional members. We typically meet the first Thursday of the month, because we had to move some things around. We'll be meeting on May 10th. But typically we meet the first Thursday. So we'd love to have additional members contributing to the conversation and working to have additional conversations with standing committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Special Committee on Veteran Services, Sergio.
Sergio had to leave, but he asked me to report that there hasn't been a recent meeting. We hope to have a meeting in late May, early June. And that's the report.
Great, thank you. Discussion of Executive Committee.
Laura?
Yes.
Before we leave the committee reports, I'd just like to backtrack a little bit. Deb, I know we were all trying to go pretty quickly and you covered a lot of territory. But regarding, I thought I heard you say that the next Parks meeting was going to have a presentation about the Putnam South Greenway. And you asked me to look back at last month's minutes, and there's no such presentation there. So if in fact we are going to have a presentation from them at the next Parks meeting, could you ask them to try to get it to us a day or so in advance?
So the Putnam Greenway meeting is May 24th. So it's not this month, it's next month.
Very good, very good, very good. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you so much, Laura. Appreciate it.
Discussion of Executive Committee meeting minutes of April 10th. Any discussion? Okay. Approval of board meeting minutes of March 14th. They were distributed. Okay. Is there anyone opposed to the March 14th minutes? Anyone abstaining? Okay, so they pass unanimously. Is there any miscellaneous business? Okay, so do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Laura, if I could just, it's Rabbi Kaplan. I'd just like to invite
hello,
everyone
Rabbi.
Yes, I'd like to invite everyone on our board. My agency, the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York, in cooperation with UJA Federation, will be holding a summit on May 3rd at UJA Federation, 130 East 59th Street, on the issue of gun violence from a public health perspective. We will be looking at gun violence through the buckets of certainly mass shootings, through the community violence issue, through the issue of intimate violence, and the largest issue is mental health and suicide. Actually, 51% of the gun violence deaths in our country are suicide-based. And our keynote speaker will be the CEO, Michael Dowling of Northwell. So if we will certainly share the information with the board, and they can share it with the members. But we invite anyone to please join us.
Date
Thank
and
you,
time
Rabbi.
again?
It'll be from 9 to 4.
What
What's the
day?
date?
May 3rd. May 3rd.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see no other hands. I think I did hear a motion to adjourn, right?
Second,
And a second, and I want to wish everybody a wonderful evening and thank you. There's following this, there is a meeting of the nominating committee, so those guys will organize, and you're free to leave the meeting or stay on to the nominating. Okay. Okay, so this is this is the first meeting, organizational meeting of the nominating committee.
Laura, do you wish me to stay or to leave?
You make a home.
Who do I give host access to?
Do we need host access?
You do, yes.
Ah.
Someone needs to have it. If I disconnect, it disconnects everything.
Right. No, can't have that. Who would be willing to be host?
I nominate Dan Patterson.
Dan, would you be host? Becky, I mean,
I
not
knew
host.
I would get a laugh from
You
you.
know,
that's fine. I really, that's fine. I really don't mind. I'm just gonna stand and watch and say nothing.
Right, but you're in charge. You're the techie.
Dan, I'll make you host, okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, Dan, you're the host. You all play nice now, okay? Good night.
Good
evening.
night, Pop.
Good night,
See you
thanks.
tomorrow. Okay, if somebody wants to take the lead, maybe one of the old timers. We have new members, but old members on the goals of the nominating committee. Feel free, go ahead. It's not mine. I'm not saying a word.
I've done this before. Omar's done this before. Anybody else? Chris, I don't think you have, or Moses. Julia, have you
No.
nominating committee?
No, I've not been on this before.
What about Julia?
This is my first time on the nominating committee.
Okay.
Yes, Steve, you go ahead.
Well, I've done this a few times in a row, so I do know some of this. So the first meeting is pre-scheduled so that we definitely get together, which is why it's right now. And the main thing to do is to decide when we're going to meet next, and maybe even pick some other dates. And some of them have been pre-selected as options for us in the notice of meeting that went out before today. And elect a chair of the committee, which is not a requirement of the bylaws, but typically happens. And then an opportunity to discuss some of the next steps that occur normally that have to occur under the bylaws or the ethical guidance manual. And then there are some optional policy decisions to be made down the road that people can also be made aware of now, even if nothing is decided. So that's kind of where we're at, picking some dates, electing a chair, having some discussion.
Right. Is there a particular order time I need to go in?
Say again?
Sorry, is there a particular order into how we need to approach those issues?
I guess elect a chair first, probably, just so someone can talk.
That's what I thought. So I think I would like to nominate Steve Fruit for chair of this committee here.
Second.
Second.
I will do it, but I will also, as I've said before, I will promise to help whoever, if someone else wants to do it, I promise to be helpful. So,
I think if the whole committee seconds you, that might count as a vote, so.
Agreed.
Okay. So, I support myself then. And then maybe there's acclamation. Is it, anybody would like to serve it instead, please? Okay, so I agree, thank you. So the first thing is, the first thing the committee has to do, and the board office will do this ministerially, is that we, under the ethical guidance manual, we have to send out a notice tomorrow that 5 days from today, all current occupants of an officer or committee chair position have to notify the committee copy the board office, that they are either wish to be nominated, be considered to be nominated by the committee for their same position, meaning they want to continue, or that they do not want to continue. They have to notify us either way. Everyone must say something. And after the committee gets that information, the committee then sends a notice out as soon as possible to the rest of the board, informing them of which positions. You shouldn't really say open, because all positions are open in the sense that there can be an election, a nomination from the floor at the June meeting. So it's not really open, but it's a position where the incumbent is not seeking to stay in the position, not seeking to be nominated again. And that gives people a sense, okay, that's open in the sense that no one else who's been doing it wants to do it, and maybe I can put my, hat in the ring. So those are the most important things I think that happen soon. And that 5 days is prescribed in the ethical guidance manual. One of the rules is that if you are going to seek a position other than the position that you have now, this is just for the people who are officer positions or committee chairs, then they have to step back and say they're not going to seek nomination for their current position. You can't seek two offices at the same time, at least not at the same time. And so in terms of meeting days, so those are the things that are going to happen kind of mechanically. And then as far as meeting dates, I don't know if you folks have the notice from today's meeting in front of you, but the first date is April 18th, which is today, following the adjournment of the board meeting. So that's great. The reason way back that there was a specification that there be several dates noticed in that notice is just in case one of us could not have stayed on tonight to meet. Like, the old days, we were in person, someone had a car picking them up or something like that. And so we had as a safety valve the very next day. So the next meeting in the notice is April 19th. We don't need that because we have the time tonight, whether it takes 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, we have the time to do what we need to do. The 23rd is in the notice and it's a Sunday. I think that was a mistake, a clerical mistake.
Okay.
It's not impossible to meet on a Sunday, but at this stage of the game, it's probably not something we should shoot for. And so we should probably tell the board office they can scrap April 19th and April 23rd. April 27th is in there as a possible date. And the reason for that is that if we wanted to meet then, as early as then, the end of that week, and that was not a pre-announced meeting, we would violate the 10-day rule if we wanted it announced tomorrow. So that is, I would suggest that the April 27th date, which is a Thursday, I would suggest that that is a good date to keep as our next meeting. People will have had time to think about things, but also the committee will have received the notices, the 5-day notices, which would be due this coming Monday. So that's another reason that the 27th is not a bad time. These meetings do not have to be long. The only long meetings are if we have a lot of interviews to do, and those will come later. I don't know if Laura is still on. I don't think so. I believe she told me that the board meeting in June is late in the month, not the second Tuesday. I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, I think I was that's the case. I think there was a note a little while back about that. So yeah, I think it's maybe June 18th. I can check right now.
I also think historically the June meeting is pushed back because it conflicts with the symphony in the park.
That
sounds familiar.
Steve, the June,
29.
Yeah,
there you go.
exactly. I was just going to say, it's the 29th, Steve.
Oh, thanks, Bob. So one of the things that is in the bylaws, not just the ethical guidance manual, and I'm going to try to send everybody a copy of the excerpt of the bylaws and the ethical guidance manual that governs, gives us our rules, some of our rules, after the meeting tonight or tomorrow. But the bylaws say that we have to report a slate of nominees by the committee for each position where a nomination has been sought, 2 weeks before the June meeting, because the June meeting is the election of next year's committee chairs and officers. And if the board meeting is at the end of June, we have plenty of time. We're going to be fine. We'll have enough time to get everything done. But I would suggest that we come to the next meeting on the 27th, kind of with our calendars prepared to set some dates that we can meet, that everybody can meet, so that we have some dates for interviews, probably at least 3, even if we don't use them all, just so we can notice them out. So that would be my suggestion. Alternatively, we can set a meeting for after the 27th of April, and pick a date in May as a placeholder. But I don't think that we will need to set, if we want to meet within 10 days of the 27th, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If we want to meet before the 8th, then we should figure that out now. If we're okay setting a meeting for early in the week of May 8th, then we would be okay waiting till the meeting of the 27th to set our other meetings. I think that would be okay, but are people okay with meeting on the 27th?
That works for me.
And that works for me as well.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so we'll say that that's our next meeting. Let's see. Anyway, that's really just the thing to be aware of, is that we have to set our meetings 10 days in advance, which is why we should probably figure out at least 3 meetings at our next meeting, 3 dates, and have those just noticed out to the world. And that gives us the flexibility to use them or not. One policy issue that will come up, but we don't have to decide it tonight, is whether we want to interview more than the minimum number of people. The ethical guidance manual says that we must interview, I'm sorry, I skipped over something. We also have to set a date by which people will inform the committee that they are seeking a position. We're not there yet. We don't know which, but there we will have to set a date, and we should probably set that date at our next meeting. April 24th is the deadline for current officers and chairs to tell us whether they want to be nominated for their positions. And so we'll know that by the 27th, and we will need to set a date soon thereafter for people to tell us whether they want to be considered. Once we know who wants to be considered for the various positions, we will then know who the minimum number of people we have to interview is. So let me explain what the ethical guidance manual says about that. It says that anyone who is seeking nomination to a position that they do not currently occupy must be interviewed. And anyone who is seeking a position for which there are 2 people seeking that position must be interviewed. So that's the minimum. And the committee can decide to interview everyone who's seeking a position, even if it's, Omar has been chair of health hospitals for several years. The committee can, I'm using you as an example, Omar. The committee can decide that all the people like Omar who've been in their positions for a year or more, they still want to meet with them. And people have different views about this. One view is it's a good, refreshing opportunity for that person to spend 5 or 10 minutes talking with the committee about their plans for the future, what they've accomplished in the past, even if they're not in a position which is, quote, being challenged. Other people have said there are enough interviews to do, people are busy, let's just stick with the ones we have to do. So that's a policy decision the committee should make at some point.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there are other policy decisions. One other decision, and Julie Reyes will remember this issue, and that is whether or not to announce to the board at some point who has sought the committee's, nomination for a position. One of the reasons that people might do that is that it will let people know if they're considering being nominated or asking another committee member to nominate them from the floor at the full meeting, at the June meeting. It lets them know if who's running for what position, essentially. If there are any positions that are open, and by open, I mean no one has sought nomination from the committee, so it's just sitting there, one of the committee chair positions, for example, or an officer position, then even though it's not specified in the bylaws, I think that what we've done in the past is we've notified the board, no one has sought nomination for chair of the Parks Committee. The committee will accept nominations up until such and such date, like an extended date. And that way, we maximize the chances that someone starts thinking about it now and gets interviewed by the committee, et cetera. But there have been times that no one has sought nomination and the position is simply open to the floor at the final June board meeting. So that's another decision to be made about whether to publicize all those positions some period, week, 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before the board meeting or not. So I have my own views about that, but we can talk about it. We're not at that point yet. I'll stop talking, and then Omar, can you think of other decisions that are down the pipe or that we should make tonight?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, I would like to know what the new guys think. Julia, Moses, Chris.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
So one thing on my side, unless we feel like we need to make that decision now, I think the 27th could be a good time to make the policy call on announcing the vacant roles, because in theory we would have already received the request or their self-nominations from the current members before that date. So we'll have a sense of where this might be an opening, at least from the existing chairs.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, Chris, I think you're on mute. I don't know if you're trying to. Yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute. I agree with what you just said also as well. It's close enough to the deadline where people need to make a decision, and it's all fresh in our minds that I'm good with the 27th, and I assume that'll be at 7 o'clock, but whenever you want to meet, I'll try to make myself available, whatever time. But I also wanted to say, I'm also in agreement that we have Steve Fruit as chair, because unless he's reading from a teleprompter, he really knows what he's talking about. So that's all I had to say about that.
Agreed.
Let's see. One other sort of housekeeping matter is that this is a real meeting, and it is an open and public meeting, and it is a noticed meeting, as this date was, and that means that we have to have minutes. But it has been the practice, well, first of all, in many years there were no minutes. There was just a final report, which at a minimum was the slate of nominations, right? For each position, the nominating committee would have a choice of who they're going to recommend to the board. So that's the bare minimum 2 weeks before the June meeting that we have to do. We can also write a report that makes recommendations for the future, changes to the ethical guidance manual, or even just policy recommendations to future generations. So that can be either a long or a short report. It's been both in the past. And with respect to the minutes, in recent years, what's happened is that the committee has sort of kept notes, like votes and things like that, and that has gone in the final report. So instead of there being 3, 4, or 5 sets of minutes coming out at odd times, that it just gets memorialized in the final report. And very brief, I mean, so for tonight would say something like, the committee met for the first time, elected a chair, determined to meet next on April 27th, which had already been noticed by the board, and to direct the board office to cancel April 19th and 23rd. That would probably be all for tonight. And then it would recite, the final report would say, and on such and such date, a notice went out to the board informing the board such and such. So I would generally, all of those ministerial things, I would generally send the direction to the board office. If the document has any kind of wiggle room or there's any kind of discretion, I would send it to the members of the committee by email. And I would ask for your, comments.
I got was supposed to meet his wife at Lincoln Center after work.
I think there's a question from Laura, but otherwise I had a comment, so.
Hi.
But,
Hi, Laura.
I just have a quick question, and I was away for part of it, so you probably covered this, but within 5 days, I believe Steve goes out the notice asking the current chairs and officers whether they are going to reapply for their position. I don't know if that was said already.
Actually, the notice has to go out tomorrow as soon as possible because.
Oh, okay, very good.
Those people only have 5 days from today, which is.
Right. Oh, okay. I read it as within 5 days, but you're right. You're right. Thank you. Oh, you're on it. Okay.
All right, thanks. I guess the only other comment I had was that I would propose we do that path that you suggested with having the consolidated minutes at the end. There's not too many, it's not too long of a period of time between our first and our last meeting, given our target date. And so I think it makes sense to just have it from an administrative standpoint for it just being one big event that references each of the meetings. So I just suggest we do that.
I mean, if someone on the committee wants to volunteer to take notes so that at least we have just some cross check, believe me, I'll make notes as well, but that wouldn't be a bad idea. Just someone who feels like it's their responsibility to scratch down things like what's the vote on that, and 4-1, 3-2, 5-0. That would be good.
I'm happy to take minutes. I would also propose that while they'll all be presented in the final report, we have them ready if anyone would like them in more real time for whatever reason. I tend to err on the side of transparency. But if no one asks, then they're just very clearly documented in our final report. But if somebody wanted them for whatever reason, we have them kind of ready to be like, sure, here they are, no problem.
Okay. Are you also volunteering to be a cross-check? Julia, or no?
Happy to do that.
Okay, that'd be great. What else comes to mind?
I think, Steve, you got a few hands up there from the
Oh, sorry.
non-committee, yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot something.
For future meetings, it's really going to be only the committee members who speak, but these are very knowledgeable people with their hands up. So for our first meeting, Laura?
I just forgot to say that I know you have to have your slate out at least 15 days before the last meeting in June. Our June meeting is going to be June 29th, which is 2 weeks later than usual because the Philharmonic is meeting in Van Cortlandt Park on a usual June date. So that gives you guys a good bit of extra cushion time. So I just wanted to throw that out. June 29th is our June meeting when we would have the actual election. That's it for me.
Yeah, no, thank you. Bob jumped in your absence and confirmed the 29th.
Oh, okay. I'm
Camelia?
busted. I was walking away.
Yeah, yes, thank you for allowing Steve. Just a quick clarification question, because how to say, I'm a bit confused as to kind of what gets to be public. For example, if for a particular committee, you have a chair, but then the chair gets challenged, like do the community, does the board know that that position is you know, contested or whatever, it's in a contest or no, or we would read that in the minutes, or I don't know, in the recording, I guess.
I think as a practical matter, because there are multiple meetings in a rather compressed time period, they're open to the public and the public can come to all the meetings, even the interviews. That's just the way it's been since we were more aware of open meetings, and certainly since Zooming.
So it would get captured in the minutes essentially.
You make it, or in the recording or whatever, but to be very honest, there's not a lot of hot stuff going on usually. It's a lot, it's fair amount of administration. I'm not saying there aren't value judgments eventually at some point, and of course, there's the vote on the nominations, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And the committee is also supposed to communicate with the board in writing about what's going on in terms of what's happening, you know, the next step, the dates, things like that.
Sounds good.
Anything else? Okay, well, as I said, definitely bring your calendars on the 27th. And I think we can't really worry too much about conflicts with other meetings, because if you've ever seen the standard board, calendar, most of the days other than Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are occupied. But obviously we'll do our best in talking amongst ourselves at the next meeting. If someone's a chair of a committee, we're going to try not to schedule a nominating committee meeting for the day of, that the person is chairing a committee, like I think Julia Omar, so.
I appreciate that.
So anything, definitely come with your committee meeting dates next time as well. If there's nothing else, then we can adjourn, and I will try to send those bylaw and ethical guidance manual excerpts out to you guys, and I will send the form notice to the board office. We'll use the same one that we used last year. To get that notice out tomorrow to the current committee chairs and officers, that they have until Monday, the 24th, to notify the committee that they are either seeking nomination for their current position or that they are not.
All right, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Motion
Thank you.
to adjourn. Adjourn, I
Thanks.
guess, yeah.
Looking forward to working with y'all.
Thank you.
All righty.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good
Bye.
evening, all.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, I appreciate your
problem.
hosting.
Good job tonight, Steve. Good job. Take care, guys.
All righty.